All you've done right now is just argue this. Literally, I'm Daniel Kikikachu, and I prefer a low IQ society. That's his argument.
It's not just IQ. You're taking this atheistic argument, which is baffling to me. Why you as a Christian would have this kind of IQ fetishism? You're not a white nationalist. IQ is not the end-all, be-all of human existence.
It's just completely not responding to the argument.
I gave an argument that you failed to respond to. I said that Islam, when we look at the statistics, when we look at all these countries on these metrics of marriage, birth rate, household size, belief in God, conviction in God. I thought we were believers. Conviction in God is higher in Muslim countries. Holding on to your religious practice is more in Muslim countries. Look at the levels of drug abuse, alcohol abuse being lower in Muslim countries. These are all values that are good, and we see them associated with Islam, not Christianity. That was my argument. So you can't deny those statistics, so you keep claiming that I have no argument. I clearly do have an argument, and I refuted your argument. If IQ is the end-all, be-all, your entire argument is on the basis of IQ. You haven't said, you just say, oh, marrying your cousin, effing your cousin, that is degenerate. On the basis of what? It's not on the basis of your Bible. It's just a degree. Yeah, laugh it up, laugh it up.
I do want to make sure we can hear the speaker.
Laugh it up, okay? Because as I said, you are arguing on the basis of a decree that was made. What is the actual moral? Can you make a moral argument, Andrew? Other than, oh, it lowers IQ? There are many things that lower IQ. Like I said, interbreeding with other races, interracial marriage results in lower IQ. So is that degenerate as well? Why can't you answer these questions, Andrew, instead of repeating, oh, you don't have an argument. You haven't responded to my argument. Okay, yeah, you've said that 10 times. Respond to the points that I'm making.
Well, I don't. Here's the thing that's funny, right? The points that you're making are in question form. Question form is not an argument. They're questions, not arguments. Perhaps you should go to a higher IQ school. The point is here, and this is super important to point out, I have what's called an argument, which means I made an argument. That argument needs to be refuted. Now, I would be happy to sit here and answer all of your questions today, Daniel, but you requested specifically a forum where that's not the case, where instead we do 2-minute monologues, probably because I would tear you to pieces in a Socratic method, but I would have been happy to do that too. People always misjudge. They always seem to think, well, Andrew just steamrolls debates, and he's terrible at these long-form formal debates. It's where I thrive. And let me just point this out. Has anybody heard an argument yet? He just says, well, there's better families and stuff. It's like, okay, but you need to give us a standard, an argument standard for why it would be that these have better societies than societies which can have, oh, I don't know, skilled labor and middle management at the very least. That's all I'm asking for. I'll concede. Hey, we've got some problems. We've got the OF, we've got the prostitution, we've got some pretty horrible things going on over here. And we have high IQ enemies that require high IQ enemies, right? And they're not getting it from Islam. So my question just is this again. It's very simple. How do you make societies that can even combat this to begin with when you basically live in the Stone Age in comparison with technological distinction? You live in the Stone Age. Islam will get AI. We already got AI. What are you talking about? So I just want an argument. That's it. I want to hear an argument for why Islamic nations are better than Christian nations based on the fact that they go, and everywhere they go, they increase cousin and we don't, which lowers the collective IQ. I would actually like a refutation there at some point.
Okay, here is the argument. I'll put it in premise form so you can follow it. Take note.
Let's see what he says, hey?
Premise 1. Okay, societies that encourage marriage,
to your cousin.
Religions that encourage more, better marriages, higher quality marriages, less being sluts, okay, less prostitution, societies that have bigger and more healthy families,
with your
societies
cousins.
That have more devotion to God, religions that encourage societies that are more cohesive, are standing for each other in a kind of nationalistic or communal way. That religion that encourages more of that is going to be better, is going to be a better religion. Premise 2, Islam does encourage all of those things that I've mentioned, and the stats I presented, that's premise 2. Therefore, conclusion, by deductive inference, Islam is a better religion than Christianity. That is the argument. The problem with your argument is that you say, premise one, societies that have higher IQ are going to be better. Premise two, Christianity, because it bans cousin marriage, is going to lead to societies with higher IQ. Therefore, Christianity is better. My rebuttal of this dumb argument is that premise one is wrong. Premise one is a false premise. That higher IQ does not lead to better societies. And as proof, I pointed to the United States of America. I pointed to many Christian countries that have low IQ, and you haven't denounced those countries. I gave many reasons why your premise one is false. That is my rebuttal of your argument. Get it?
Yeah. Let's go through this premise at a time. First and foremost, the entailment of your argument would be that low IQ societies are better. It would be that lower IQ societies are actually better, Daniel, which is hilarious because, remember, you rejected that as being a false premise. P1, he says societies require higher quality marriages. They fuck their first cousins. How could that possibly be a higher quality marriage, Daniel? I reject premise one. I'm saying your argument's not even sound. How can you have in any way, shape, or it's totally invalid. I reject it as even being a sound premise. How could this qualitatively be better to have genetic deficiencies compounded over 1,000 years to the point where your civilization literally requires the benevolence of all other civilizations so that they just don't wipe you out because you're not technologically advanced to do anything about it. You're not technologically advanced. And by the way, when I say technology, I'm not just talking about like lasers and phasers and guns and things like that. Remember, things like philosophy, that's a technology, right? Things like language is technology. Things like social communications and businesses and infrastructure, these are technologies. You can't have these technologies when your IQ is 70 to 85. You can't. You need to have the administrative and skilled labor class, and that requires at least 85 to 100. Most of these places don't have it, but 100 to 115, that's pretty standard for these things. So it's like, look, how could you possibly say that the societies Christians build aren't better on a single principle, that we outlaw first cousin marriage? When you outlaw first cousin marriage, you see the collective IQ begin to increase, right? And you see that these technologies no longer unavailable. Technologies, medicines for children, things like this are now available. His argument, his entire argument is actually we should keep our society super low IQ because if we keep them low IQ, well, they'll have more qualitative marriages and stuff. What? What?
We have to switch it over at 90 seconds. Go ahead, Daniel.
Yeah. I mean, he makes a really good point there that it's not just about the materialism in terms of IQ. It's also about the way that societies can think as a whole. Philosophy, language, and these sorts of things as well. And you've seen how Christian societies have developed compared to Muslim societies because they don't, they're cousins. They've created the best societies. They've created the best thinkers. And yeah, I mean, like once you get to a higher IQ, you're going to have more secularists and you're going to have more atheists. And like our enemies are actually high IQ individuals, like the secularists and the atheists and stuff. That's a higher level of competition. The Muslims, much lower. Look how they fight each other. We fight each other generally in the war of like subversion and politics and academia and debate and everything. Look what Muslims do when they fight each other in their country, just like total barbarity.
You don't understand causality. So again, the question is, you had the vast majority of Christian history at sub 100 IQ. Your assumption, the premise that you're using is that you have to have a over 100 IQ average in your society to build civilization and to be functional. But this is disproven by your own religious history. This is disproven by all of Christendom prior to 1800 or even 1900, the 1900s actually. So just like Christians could have civilization for 1900 years, Muslims have also had their civilizations that were also thriving, that also had conquest, that also had art, literature, poetry, all kinds of beautiful things that we as human beings value. It's not just IQ. You're taking this atheistic argument, which is baffling to me. Why you as a Christian would have this kind of IQ fetishism? You're not a white nationalist. IQ is not the end all be all of human existence. I am happy, I'm fine with having a 90 average IQ country that abides by traditional values, that abides by whether they be Christian or Muslim. I actually prefer the low IQ Christian countries that value marriage. They don't have degeneracy. They don't have prostitution. I value those Christian countries even when they have a lower IQ, a 90 IQ, an 80 IQ. That's they're living beautiful lives. Yeah, you can make fun of them. Oh, they have donkeys pulling their carts. You can laugh, but they're living beautiful lives as Christians or as Muslims or any other religious group.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the lowest productivity around Europe, like the countries that, in terms of GDP per capita, perform at the lowest level, and you're looking at countries like Ukraine with like a mid-90s IQ, and Belarus and Moldova, and these countries are all like mid-90s IQ and just leaps and bounds above the Muslim societies.
Well, I guess ignorance really is bliss.
Oh, good one. That was a neat one.
Slapping your dress. So look, let's point this out. Let's point this out. Let's point this out. Right? We just want to look. We haven't gotten personal with each other. We can go the rest of the debate. We both got a jab in. All right, that's fair. So here's the thing, though. Right? This is still not a refutation of my argument. The historical standard is Christians had lower IQs back in the day. Yeah, and they didn't build modern civilization back in the day. Modern civilization requires professional middle management, 100 to 115 IQ, right? 85 to 100 for skilled labor. What they're talking about is just basic day laborers. These people are very low IQ. And by the way, I can even make the claim that they're really choosing Islam anyway. They can't really think about it that hard. Right? So the question becomes, right, as we're kind of diving into this, I just want to point out one more time, the argument is around a singular Christian principle. The singular Christian principle is that we're not allowed to marry our first cousins. That's in our ecclesiology. And I don't care if you're a Protestant, right? Almost no Protestants do this, right? No Catholics do this. Orthodox, this is forbidden as well. It's not that you couldn't find some sect somewhere, some small society somewhere which practices it. I'm sure that that's the case, but by and large and overwhelmingly it's not. With Islam, the opposite's true. By and large and overwhelmingly they do. So we're basing this on a singular principle, which is Christian, and that's what I want a refutation for. Why is marrying your first cousin for the purpose of building low IQ societies better than not doing that?
Go ahead, Daniel.
Again, it's not a causal relation. Islam doesn't mandate marrying your cousin. It's not like we're saying we want to keep IQ low, so marry your cousin. You keep getting the causal chain wrong about this. The second point that I want you to address is that when we look at IQ increasing, that is associated with more atheism. It is directly correlated with higher levels of atheism. The higher the IQ goes, the more people become atheists. This is a bad thing. I would assume that Christians would agree more atheism is a bad thing. I think that, yes, modern society is not all it's cracked up to be. I don't know if you guys have been looking around, but it seemed like I've felt, at least myself, that over the past 5 years especially, first with the pandemic and now everything that's happening in the world where World War III is about to break out, I think the modern world is a dystopia. I am waiting for, nuclear holocaust to destroy us all. I don't believe in this absolute value of modern society, and therefore I don't agree with your premise that high IQ is something valuable in and of itself. There are many things to point out being wrong or bad with high IQ. Again, I prefer to turn the clock back 200 years, where Christians had these traditional Christian societies. Muslims had traditional Muslim societies. Yeah, you didn't have a laptop. You didn't have internet. You didn't have cars. But guess what? You didn't have to worry about your wife having to, being in college and sleeping with every frat boy in the university, and you don't even know her history because of feminism. You have like LGBT degeneracy.
It's just completely not responding to the argument. The argument here is you've got two societies. One of them allows for cousin marriage, which reduces the IQ, and not just reduces the IQ, but it compounds over generations. The other one doesn't do that, and they get collectively more intelligent and they build more sophisticated societies. Therefore, this society, the dumb society, has to rely on the smart society to not wipe them out. And the dumb society is over here saying that the smart society is totally immoral. Look how immoral these guys are over here, when they could easily wipe them out but choose not to. And if the shoe were on the other foot, if Muslims stopped their cousins and they were much more sophisticated technologically than us, first of all, they would have the same problems with secularism. Second of all, based upon the Muslim religion, they won't do the same for us. They never have. Whenever Muslims have had power and the opportunity to expand into Christian lands, they've done it. So once, like, this is what Andrew means when he's saying that the guy's not responding to the argument. Society A, Society B. Society A, not cousins, more sophisticated. Society B, cousins, less sophisticated. Society B then has to rely on Society A.
Elderly who are being shipped off to old folks' homes because there's not a strong family unit to take care of our own elderly. Children are being shipped off to daycares because there's not a strong family, strong marriage, mom at home with traditional roles to take care of the children. I prefer the low IQ. I prefer the low technology society.
We have to switch it over. Andrew, 90 seconds.
Can I just point this out? That none of those degenerate things that he just pointed out, which I agree with him, are the cause of IQ. I think you're having the problem with the causal link, sir. Let's point this out. And this is really important to point out. One more time, he didn't contend with the argument. The argument is, how do you make a superior society which is better for society? And you know what? All you've done right now is just argue this. Literally, I'm Daniel Kikikachu, and I prefer a low IQ society. That's his argument. Now, look, I did not expect you to bite the bullet that you would have a preference for a low IQ society, and therefore we should continue to have sex with our family members to achieve said low IQ society. But over here on the Christian side, well, we're just not willing to do that. So here's what's really important here to remember as the argument structure goes on. Daniel is literally giving a prescription at this point. He's giving you an ought. We ought to have dumb people. That is his ought. My ought is different. My ought is you being intelligent does not restrict you from Christianity or Christian ethics. And we look at the IQ differentials in Christian nations, and we can see firsthand that that is true. So the thing is these are not mutually exclusive claims. When he says higher IQ leads to secularism, I could just as easily say higher IQ leads to Christianity, because all the Christians are way higher IQ. So the thing is like, which of those moral values do you not prefer? Which of them? Which of these? Christians don't want degeneracy. They're fighting against it as well. The only reason you've made these successful inroads is because your enemies are so stupid that you can conquer them. And anytime you've tried to conquer the technologically advanced West, you can only do it via immigration, because you cannot collectivize to spare yourselves from the very nuclear war you're currently terrified of, because your people groups are too stupid.
Switch it over. Go ahead, Daniel.
How much time do we have, James, for this?
90
To the back for this
back and
period.
forth. We have until it's about 30 more minutes.
Oh wow. Okay, that's good.
He's not happy about, oh, wow. Okay. Gosh, I got to deal with this for another 30 minutes. Oh, dear. All right.
So my question
This is the best question of the whole entire debate con.
is actually for Andrew, but I would like to hear your response as well, Daniel. Andrew, I'm sure you're familiar, but we have this tradition in the West where the man typically goes to the father and asks for the daughter's hand in marriage. If your nephew came up to you asking this, would you permit it?
No.
Daniel?
Sorry, I didn't understand. Your nephew, can you repeat that?
So we have this tradition in the West where the man who wants to marry a lady goes to the father asking for the daughter's hand in marriage. So if your nephew came to you with this request, would you permit it?
Yeah, I'd consider it, yeah. I'd consider it depending on qualities I'd have, yeah.
Oh.
I mean, this is something, if Jesus was also like the church fathers living,
Folks,
at the early centuries.
Folks, I do want to ask
James, why would you interrupt there?
Just so the other people that are listening to the speaker can hear, I just want to ask if you could keep the conversations down to a minimum.
Yeah, so as I was saying, like in the early periods of Christianity, If some Christian father was asked, can I marry your daughter? A nephew comes and asks, he would also say yes. It was only later in Christian history that that was considered to be incest and was outlawed. And actually, what the outlaw of cousin marriage didn't extend just to first cousins. Like, I don't know if you realize this. It extended to second, third, fourth, all the way to seventh cousin. That's how.
Oh no, they outlawed marrying your third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh. Oh no, Christian's bad. That's so oppressive.
Much the church, for some reason, decided and decreed that we don't want any kind of cousin marriage. But that
Wow,
had
that's
a
so
big
bad.
impact on the size of, like, the average family size. It had a big impact on religiosity
It's another pro-cousin marriage argument here.
and all kinds of other factors. I highly recommend you read the book of Joseph Heinrich, who has a thick volume talking about this. He actually makes an argument that cousin marriage is associated with the rise, like banning cousin marriage is associated with the rise of technology and IQ. So it's right up Andrew's alley, but this is not necessarily a good thing for the reasons that I explained. Ready for you.
This one's for Daniel. Andrew has established that at the beginning of the debate, the causative chain to lower IQ is inbreeding. Now, the inductive case is going to be Islam both allows and often promotes inbreeding that's causing lower IQ. What in Christianity is causing them to be a lower IQ so that we can compare these two?
Well, one example that I gave in the debate is interracial marriage. So interracial marriage can also contribute to lower IQ. If anything that lowers IQ is something that's bad, then Christians and Andrew should be against interracial marriage as well. That's one example. He didn't really respond to that, but that's another thing highly associated with lower IQ. Also, education. Secular education is associated with higher IQ. Religious education is correlated with lower IQ. So you'd also have to insist that people go to secular education instead of religious education if your only priority or your main priority was increasing the IQ within society.
Well, but that's not the main priority, right? The idea isn't that, the idea is not that this is the main priority. The idea instead is which one makes for better societies, and we can point to a correlate for why their societies are not better. He keeps on strawmanning the position and saying, this is the only thing you care about. It's not. It's not.